let's see how we can make bigger enemies.
To be offended or frightened of everything.
So you've become like the sort of Tony Scarface of podcasting.
We're live, baby.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the morning show. Happy Wednesday to you. Thank you for being here. We love you. We appreciate you. And if you love us and appreciate us, then you should prove it. Get on.
Give us money.
Go on this YouTube page and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Head on over to patreon.com/Pantelis. Find yourself a package that suits you and get access to
that'll suit you.
Dead starting on fire. You got a package. So yeah, get yourself access to some awesome content, guys. Poseidon over here, as always, producing. What's going on, buddy? Poseidon 69. I'm Poseidon.com.
Just giving you the silent treatment.
Yeah. And Ted Bird, ladies and gentlemen, co-host of Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, which airs every Wednesday morning right before this show. So if you haven't done so already, wait for this to end and then go watch that episode as well with another broadcasting legend, Terry DeMonte. How's it going, man?
Good. My fault that there was no morning show, this show, last week because I was filling in for the morning radio show in Ganawage.
How was that?
On K103. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I worked back into the rhythm of things.
Yeah, I worked over there for a couple of years back in 2010 to 2012, and I spent all last week having people say to me, I thought we got rid of you. That's their favorite over there. I thought there's two things they love to say. I thought we got rid of you, and you're not even from here. And it's always good-natured in my case, for the most part. Yeah, they've always been very nice to me.
Well, that's
Ted,
what are you doing in my living room?
There's one guy who works at the gas station there, Puck, who always used to say to me, I thought we got rid of you. And so I went over, I saw him last Friday, and 2 Fridays ago, I guess, when I went over to get the lay of the land. And I was reminded of a few years after I had left there, I went to a funeral in Chateauguay, and I thought, I'm going to stop on the reserve and get some gas and say hi to Puck. And I was wearing a dark suit and sunglasses, and he didn't recognize me when I got out of the car. He thought I was SQ or RCMP, who are not welcome.
No, of course not.
On the sovereign Mohawk territory of Ganawage. And as soon as I got out of the car, he looks at me and he goes, whatever it is you want, the answer's no. And I took my sunglasses off. I said, Puck, it's me. Geez, I thought we got rid of you.
That's so funny. Joe, that's skipping a beat.
Yeah.
How long hadn't you seen him?
At that time, it had probably been like 2 or 3 years.
Still, though.
Yeah.
You would imagine the reaction was like, hey, man, how's it going? But no, it's like...
Yeah, well, no, he was glad to see me. He's just, it's all good-natured. It's all in good fun. Oh, he's a good guy. Yeah, they're all nice over there. There's a handful who don't like me, and it wouldn't matter how nice I was to them. They don't like me because I'm white, and fuck you, whitey.
Yeah.
You get some of that. No, what are you going to do?
I don't blame them. I always wondered, could we pick up a property there or no? It's
Oh, I don't think so.
It's
no,
exclusive
no.
to
Yeah. Yeah, like you can't even live there.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
to be fair, why would you want to?
No, but I'm just saying,
I think that I think that if you've got deep pockets, you could set up business interests over there, but you would need someone from the community to front.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the gambling industry, and I'm talking out of my ass here, and I might end up with two in the hat if I don't shut my fucking mouth. But
You need to pay up. You need to pay out a couple of people. Sure, no problem. You want to open a store? Yeah, no, it's cool. But they have a casino there that apparently is doing very well. They just renovated. What's it called?
Playground poker? Yeah, Playground's huge. Yeah. Good restaurant there, The Rail. I went over to their Remembrance Day ceremony on Saturday. I always go to the Remembrance Day ceremony there. I like it there. It's not Remembrance Day. It was a couple of days before. But it's really unique. There's a strong tradition of military service in that community, mostly U.S. military, and probably more Marines than any other service branch. I guess it's the warrior mentality and warrior spirit. They like to be the tip of the spear. You want to be in the tip of the spear, join the Marines.
Yeah.
And so it's a good combination of military tradition, because they always have the pipes and drums of the Black Watch Royal Highland Regiment of Canada lead the parade from the Legion to the Cenotaph, and then at the Cenotaph they have native singing and drumming, which is really
I saw
cool.
a video you posted.
Yeah. So it's a really nice combination of military tradition and native spirituality, and it's a remembrance ceremony like you won't see anywhere else. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's cool.
Do you feel like they do enough here in Canada to honor the memory of the soldiers, and in general, just the pride towards the military? I feel like Remembrance Day isn't as it used to. I remember, going over, the history. Even when we were younger in elementary school, we knew what November 11th was all about. And I feel today that,
I think it waxes and wanes depending on what's going on in the world. We had Colin Robinson, who's a former commanding officer of the Royal Montreal Regiment, on the Standing By podcast last week. And I was pleasantly surprised. He's very active and has been for a long time in the Legion Poppy campaign. And he said when Canada was involved in Afghanistan, there was a resurgence in awareness. Yeah. And he said, as an example, his little Legion branch in Westmount that would normally collect $10,000-$12,000 per year, over the Remembrance Week period when they were out selling poppies, he said they'd collect 10, 12 grand. He said during the time period when Canada was involved in Afghanistan, they were getting like $30,000 to $40,000. Oh, wow. So, people were, because it was front and center, it was in the news, people were recognizing the sacrifice, not only of the service members, but of their families as well, because the family sacrifice too. If your mom or dad or son or brother or sister is overseas serving, well, you're sacrificing as well, because you're they're not there. Someone who you love is not front and center in your life, which is where you would want them to be. Yeah. So you're making, the whole family makes a sacrifice. But to your point before, when I was a kid, and I'm like a generation older than you, Remembrance Day, and I think this has come back. I think it's a school holiday again. When I was a kid, we always got November 11th off, and it wasn't, yay, we got a day off. It was we knew why we were getting the day off, and
my kids were in school. My kids
they did,
school,
Yeah. I think it should be a day off. And also, when I was a kid, the World War II veterans, the guys who survived, they were
still around.
They were still around.
Yeah.
Like they were middle aged. Yeah. I remember seeing a guy one time. I was about 9 or 10 years old, and we were going to visit somebody's cottage in New Brunswick, and we stopped to get gas at this little gas station out in the country somewhere. And I remember seeing a guy whose face was disfigured, and I was very taken aback. And I was like 9 or 10 years old, and it scared me, And it only occurred to me years later, probably a war veteran who was in an air crash or was in a tank that was hit and was burned. He was bad. The disfigurement, in retrospect, I recognize that, he was burned.
Right.
And when I was 9 or 10 years old, that didn't occur to me. Of
course.
They're all gone now the exception of, there might be a handful still around. If you were 20 years old on D-Day, you're 100 now.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of, and I always remember too, when I was a kid, if you knew someone whose dad or grandfather was in the war, and Dad doesn't like to talk about the war.
Yeah.
That's now known as PTSD. But back then, when they didn't have the kinds of services and resources that are available now, it was just, Dad doesn't like to talk about the war. So Dad would just suffer alone with his thoughts.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we've come a long ways there in terms of giving our veterans the support that they need.
Yeah.
That's recognized now. It wasn't recognized so much back then.
No.
Back then it was like, suck it up, man, do your part.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's a loss of respect. Or I saw this story, and we hadn't planned on talking about this, but since we're on the topic, was it in Nova Scotia? I can't remember. There was a school that was, I guess, celebrating or commemorating November 11th, and they asked soldiers to come, but they asked them to come without their uniform. And it was it in Nova Scotia? I
It
can't
was,
remember.
I think it was in Sackville or Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia, and they backpedaled hard on that because the premier of Nova Scotia came out and said this is unacceptable.
What are you talking about? Why?
To ask military members not to wear because it might trigger.
Look, I didn't read the article, but my mind initially went there that they don't want to, because of the uniform or whatever, maybe some of the, the woke sentiment there.
Well, that's 100% what it
But
is.
it's-
And-
what?
Yeah.
talking
And credit to the premier of Nova Scotia.
They have one day. Think about that.
Yeah. If you're gay, you get a whole month.
Fucking shit. One day
really.
a year to commemorate.
Well, to be fair, you get railed more if you do.
Fucking lobbed the softball and hit it right out of the park. Way to go, Poseidon.
Yeah, they get one fucking day a year. You can't honor them or commemorate the event properly. Come on.
And there was another one. I think it was in Ontario where they played at a school ceremony. They played a pro-Palestinian.
Oh, I heard that. The anthem. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a pro-Palestinian activist song in Arabic. And the principal of the school said, well, Remembrance Day it's all about, what some white guy in the military did. So let's diversify it some. Fuck you.
I don't understand.
Well, listen, the tide has turned and will continue to turn, and we saw that in the U.S. election results.
Yeah.
The U.S. election results were a backlash against exactly that kind of bullshit and sentiment.
Yeah.
USA.
Here's the thing, and 2 weeks ago, because last week we didn't have an episode, but 2 weeks ago we were talking about that. We were wondering what the results might be, and I remember telling you, the pollsters, they're saying that it's going to be tight and it's going to, we're not going to get the results. And you said that's incredibly stupid. It's going to be a landslide victory. We'll know before the end of the night. You were right.
Was I right? Yeah. Is that considered a landslide? I know in terms of electoral college. It's called, they're not seats, right? It's electoral college
it's points.
votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was he was 320 something and she was
at the end,
240
2 days later, he was I don't know what the final result is, but he was 312 or something. I remember seeing after.
And popular vote was 53.
He wins the
to
popular vote. He
47
won
or
the
something.
electoral college. He won all the key states.
And he won the House and the Senate.
I don't know, the House not yet. They're still waiting. He took the Senate. What more do you want, right?
And you can see it coming right out of the gate, too. My favorite was, I don't subscribe to any of the American news channels, so I was watching it on CBC, and they obviously lean heavily left. I
was watching the French one, believe it or not. I was watching LCN.
Is that right?
And they had results they were more ahead in the results than CNN. And then I thought, well, obviously it's fucking CNN. But then I switched to Fox, and they didn't have that either. So I was wondering, where the hell is LCN getting these numbers from, right?
When Trump was up, I think he had 162, according to CBC, he was at 162 electoral college votes, and she was at 34. And the CBC election team were going, it's still very early. This is totally what we expected, and you can hear their voices shaking and see it in their head. It's still very early. And I was reminded of in hockey, some people subscribe to this theory that 2-0 is the worst lead in hockey. If you're up by 2 goals, you're in trouble. Oh, worst lead in hockey. And I'm going, 162-34. Worst lead in presidential politics.
Yeah.
Like you could just see it coming.
Yeah.
You knew it was over then.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the blue wall. We still haven't heard from the blue wall.
Yeah, they were anticipating a tighter race, and
He won every swing state, right?
Except, Arizona finally went to the Democrats.
Oh, did it? So
Yeah.
he won what, 6 or 7?
6 out of 7.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I read that yesterday. Arizona finally went to the Democrats. So we had a specialist on our podcast last week. One of these geeks there and the geeks that you want to have kind of on your side because they just know everything about anything, right?
Right.
And he works at the Cher Raoul d'Endurant. It's like this research institution, and they have really, really intelligent specialists. So we had one of them on. Specifically talk about the elections. And I told him the question about the polls. And I hadn't looked into it. I honestly thought that they were completely off. When I saw the results come in, to me, it was anything but a tight race. And it was anything but what the pollsters were saying, that it was going to be a very tight race, and that we're going to get results in weeks, if not months.
You remember? A week at least. Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you know what? Look, they weren't that often." I'm like, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Well, they even looked at that. Like they think of everything, these guys." And he actually had the papers. He goes, "Well, look," and he mentioned like most of the key states and a lot of other states, and he's like, "Well, this is what they were polling, and these were the actual results." And he goes, "They're within the margin of error. Usually, they were within 1 to 2%. So the pollsters weren't off. They were off because they put that 1 to 2% on Kamala's side,
right,
which brought her up to the numbers that we were getting days leading up into the election. But it should have gone to Donald Trump. Had that happened, the polls would have been, the numbers would have been more correct. But they were within the margin of error. It just goes to show you how many people vote in the U.S. where 1 to 2% can make a significant difference in the lead. It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So good for them.
How about the missing 15 to 20 million votes?
They're still missing votes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is happening now for the House, right?
Well, I'm talking about Joe Biden got 81 million votes.
Oh.
So if you do the total vote tabulation between 2020 and this year, way less. Yeah, there were like. The numbers indicate that there were somewhere between 15 and 20 million Democrats who didn't bother to go out and vote.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much tells you that one...
they rigged the election in 2020.
No.
Come on!
You think 15 to 20 million people just didn't who voted for Joe Biden
George.
just didn't bother to go out and vote for Kamala Harris?
Why is that impossible? You're looking at what you voted last time. You're like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? What a mistake we've made. And they're like, who is this person trying to
But if you
replace
also
him?
if you look at the elections before that,
Yeah.
the votes for
What was
for,
the average?
for Obama
Yeah.
and Hillary? They were around 60-ish, and then all of a sudden in 2020 for Joe
guy
Biden,
gets
it
80.
was up to 80.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a lot of suspicion.
It smells.
But
Anyway, it doesn't matter because
it doesn't matter.
Trump won.
It could not be
won
more
big.
clear than that, right?
And that's what we talked about, and you were saying, whoever wins, I hope it's a landslide.
Yes, I did say
hope
that.
it's clear and decisive so that we don't have to go through.
Yeah, that whole cycle again that you cheated and
no, we're just going to have to go through 4 years of Trump derangement.
It's going to be, But also on the other side, you agree with me that we're expecting certain behaviors from Trump that are going to be just nonsensical. The guy's a character. I saw this video once. I can't remember who sent it to me. I don't know if it was during this campaign or if it was earlier. He's talking to a crowd and he's telling the crowd, He's talking about the Afghani ladies and the veil, and he's like, "Oh, we got to get rid of that." You know what I'm talking about. And it's just like, how is this guy the leader of the Western world, right? And then he keeps going on. He's like, and then I spoke to the Afghani women, and they said, "We've had this for 1,000 years. Can you believe that? They've had the veil for 1,000 years. What are we doing? Why are we telling them to remove it? If they want it, they've had it for over 1,000 years. And you know what? Maybe it's better that way. Think about it. If you're a woman, you don't have to put any makeup on. You just slap that thing. Oh, you're sweetie. I'm ready. Let's go." What is, like, you're listening to these things and you're thinking, what is going on right now?
You ever watch Greg Gutfeld on Fox? He's very funny. He goes head to head with the big late night network.
Oh, they were all
Quote,
fucking
unquote,
sad
they
to
were.
watch.
Yeah,
Fucking
yeah,
serious.
yeah.
Get a
Greg
life.
Gutfeld
Get a hold of yourself,
Greg
man.
Gutfeld took the piss out of them too. He really took the piss out of them. He's very funny. He's Fox, so he's conservative.
Yeah.
But him and his panel, they have fun. Whether they're winning, their side is winning, or losing, they have fun. And they joke around and they laugh. And he was talking about all the celebrities who said they were going to leave the U.S. if Trump wins. And he was saying that he hopes Cher moves to Afghanistan or Iran so that she can cover her face.
That's good.
Yeah, and he had a guy on his panel last Thursday night, 2 nights after the election. If you get a chance, Greg Gutfeld, November 9th monologue. His monologue is so funny. And one of the guys he had on his panel was Winston Marshall, who used to be in Mumford & Sons, the band, the British band, and left the band because his politics lean conservative. And I think there was some friction within the band, and he wanted to express himself, so he left the band. Anyway, they were talking about, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but Trump did really well with young men.
Yeah, the 18 to 36 demographic.
Yeah, they turned out in force, and they voted in a majority for Trump. And this guy made the point, well, he said, you've got one side putting tampons in men's bathrooms, and the other side parallel parking 40-story tall rockets. Who do you think young guys are going to vote for? You know? Who do you think appeals to young men? You know, the guys who are putting tampons in the shitter, or the guys who are bringing in fucking 40-story tall rockets for parallel parking? Of course, young men are going to go for the latter.
Here's the thing. Here's my takeaway, and there's a lot to, right? And I'm not going to act like I'm a specialist because I know nothing about American politics. One, it was clear the difference between Trump now and in 2020 or 2016 when he ran and won. You saw how well organized he was. You saw this is a guy that now has behind him a steady, solid team that understands how to organize and how to strategize your communications. I mean, you can never strategize communications with Donald Trump. He always goes off and says whatever the hell he wants.
But I think he was more. I think they had him reined in more.
Maybe.
I think because in 2016 it was more of a publicity stunt, and he wasn't expecting to win. I feel and this time he really wanted to win.
Yeah. If you listen to, and I listened to it in its entirety, his Joe Rogan guest appearance.
Yeah, I still haven't
his 3 hours on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
But I listened to the whole thing, and he didn't. I mean, he was Trump.
Yeah.
He is who he is, but he didn't say anything completely outrageous that the Democrats were able to seize on. Like, if you think about it, was there anything that came out of the Joe Rogan podcast that the Democrats were able to go see? He's a lunatic. He's crazy. He's out of his mind. No, he was just like, it was like your crazy old uncle for 3 hours, but nothing totally outrageous. And Kamala, I think, made a mistake, maybe not by not going on Joe Rogan. She made a mistake in that she didn't go into take the challenge of going into the lion's den, but she wouldn't have lasted 3 hours.
No,
she's not smart enough and articulate enough, and she just can't roll the way that he can.
No, and she needs to be prepped. She needs to be
she needs to know what the questions are in advance. He doesn't.
And if you think of it, well, because you don't need that. You don't need that. You just need to be yourself. That's the whole idea. And that's what people want to see. They want to see the real person, not the politician. And I think, Trump. I mean, that's who he is. So he doesn't really have to change anything about him. JD Vance did the same thing, and obviously Elon Musk. I mean, he's been on the show before as well. But I mean, to have those 3 1 week to the elections, I mean, just the impact that podcast had. I'm convinced, and of course, I don't know if there's any study on that, and eventually someone will do a case study on that.
Oh, they're already talking about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the impact that show had, and that's another thing that I took away from this election, regardless of Democrat, Republican, whatever it is, because I saw both sides. They both invested time and money on being present on podcasts on both sides, right? I mean, the Republicans.
There's a sea change in media influence. And
the Republicans were a lot more effective. They went and hit on specific podcasts that targeted a specific demographic that they needed to come out, which was the 18 to 40 demographic, which is usually, more often than not, absent in the elections. So you had the Republicans. They did shows like Flagrant, the Joe Rogan. They did, they did Theo Von. I think he did Tucker Carlson, further back. And
the audience that those podcasts get dwarf legacy media.
Are you kidding me? Of
dwarf.
course.
And legacy media either doesn't recognize that, or they've got their heads so far up their own asses and they're so full of hubris that they don't realize it. I still see clips from MSNBC and CNN, and they think that people give a fuck what they have to say.
Let me give you another number that gentleman, Julien Touré, I should say his name, Julien, gave us on our podcast. And we mentioned, the importance that podcast had during this election, and how much of a game changer this will probably be in the political world going forward. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen down here in Canada in the upcoming elections.
Pierre Poilievre should do the Pantelis podcast.
I think they're going to focus a lot on podcasts, whether they're going to do the Pantelis or not.
It's good for you guys.
We have a political podcast, so for us, we're fucking.
It's really good for you guys.
For sure,
you've got momentum already, and I think this is just going to add to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we spoke to him about, this whole thing, and even on that, fucking guy was prepared, and he's like, well, he goes, listen to this. He goes, the last debate, I think that Fox or CNN had, I can't remember which network he gave. And he goes, if you're looking at the demographic, the 18 to 40 demographic, it was Fox. He said on Fox, which is the biggest network in the US, and they had the debate and everybody was happy. It got barely 100,000 views, like 100,000. This is what your biggest media network in the US gets on a debate.
Yeah.
On a debate.
Trump on Joe Rogan, I think, got 43 million at last.
45 million or whatever it is.
Now?
Yeah. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and it's almost unbelievable to think that you are getting so much money to run the biggest network, and this is the output. And that could be correlated to Canada as well with CBC. Nobody listens to CBC. No. We've even had that conversation when we've spoken, often about Paul Arcand, who in a Quebec market, the guy had the biggest listenership as a radio morning man in Quebec. Like, it's ridiculous, right?
In Canada, you mean?
In Canada, sorry, in Canada. So, basically a provincial morning show has the biggest, or had the biggest audience in the country. Pretty much, it's a Montreal thing, and I think it's. I don't know if they have like sister stations, or I don't know what you call it, syndicated or whatever, and they're like in Quebec, or I don't know where else. I don't know if they're listened to.
Well, if it is anywhere else, it's only elsewhere in Quebec. Terry made a good point on our podcast this week that Quebec legacy media still operates according to the old formula, where it spends money on big names and smart people and good broadcasters and teams. Yeah. And whereas English legacy media, they cut to the bone. But the bone.
I don't know if it's a cultural thing that makes it work over here, or if it's the people. But at the end of the day, I'd love to see like an actual study with this. I mean, the U.S. they still pay a lot of money to have these big names too on their networks.
Yeah, but
and
I
it's not
think
working.
I think you're going to see that change in the aftermath of this election, because the bean counters will recognize that they're not getting their money's worth, and that the audience and the money is now in podcasting and in online media. I don't know if you saw, I think his name is Scott Jennings. He's the token conservative on the CNN political broadcasts. And he had, I just sent you the tweet, Poseidon, on DM on Twitter. He had what I thought was the best 2-minute analysis of what happened in the American election and why it happened, why Trump won and why he won as handily as it did. And it goes to what we were talking about in terms of a backlash against the woke mentality, and people are sick of being condescended to, you know, and dismissed and ridiculed if they don't prescribe to the mainstream media narrative. But I thought it was really good, and he had, like, you could see the other people on the CNN political panel that he was on, and I think this was election. I don't know if this was election night or the night after. They were just slack-jawed, like they had no, because they knew he was right, and so yeah, watch and listen to what he says. I think this is really good.
Well, it was obviously during the elections because they have the thing.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so this was election night.
Has won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line, and we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
Crushed it. He nailed it.
Yeah.
But
100%.
Meanwhile,
By the way,
a week later, sorry, Poseidon, but a week later, I look at clips from CNN and MSNBC, and they haven't.
And it's just back to what it was.
Yeah. Sorry, Poseidon, go ahead.
They got a lot of voter turnout. Like, how many people voted in total? 75.5 million Trump and 72. First of all, the fact that she got more than Obama is preposterous. I guarantee you they still cheated and lost. She got 378,000. So let's say.
Well, since 2008, also, Poseidon, don't forget that the population has gone up also in the U.S., right? So it would make sense that at some point the people that turn up to vote are bigger in number than the previous years. But anyway.
Not much?
Well, they imported quite a few, didn't they?
Yeah, they're giving free citizenship to everyone.
Yeah.
They were 300.
Now you don't need ID.
Well, look, they were 304 to 330. Does that equate to, I guess?
Well, it's 30 million people more, man. You know,
I guess. But anyways, so that's they got half the country to vote.
150, yeah, 150.
That's almost half the country to vote, and then more than half preferred.
Well, 50% isn't that high.
Well,
voter turnout. We barely get 20 from what I
Yeah,
heard.
but you have to remember, people. You have to be over 18 to vote, and not the entire population.
Well, that's
I'd
true,
like
too.
to know how many.
Yeah,
that's true.
What's the population of America? Is about 330 million.
Yeah, let's say.
Yeah. So how many of them are eligible voters? And then you break it down from there.
Yeah.
Because you can't send 3-year-old Timmy into.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
Practically, though, different story.
Who'd you vote for, Timmy? I voted for Kamala, mister.
There was a clip and it's been going around social media with Nicolas Sarkozy. He's the former president of France.
There's 244 million people
Eligible
245,
voters?
over the age of 18.
So 244, and out of those, they got 150.
150, and out of the 100
So it's more
million,
than 50%.
Yeah. It's more like 60.
more like 67.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that is a good turnout. Yeah. So Nicolas Sarkozy was on a panel, I guess, a couple of days after the U.S. election. He was commenting on why Trump won. And for those who don't know, Sarkozy was like, he was a right wing.
By the way, you said the Democrats won Arizona. No, they lost Arizona also, by the way.
Did they?
And Nevada. And they lost Nevada.
I
I didn't even realize they lost Nevada.
I thought he won all 7.
No,
states.
He did.
Are you
Arizona,
sure?
Florida, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada,
somebody-
Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
In Arizona, is it Carrie Lake? Is that her
She
name?
lost. That's what I
She
read.
lost.
Michigan, not Minnesota, sorry.
She lost, but is that not separate from? Wasn't she running for something separate from the presidential election?
Well, she was running for Senate for she was running for her seat in the Senate.
Yeah, but isn't that separate from the Electoral College?
How come we can't see Puerto Rico on the map?
No, the way it works, it depends on the states, but usually if you win the state, you take the points also from the Electoral College. Gallego wins Arizona Senate race. No, man, they lost Arizona's Democrat. Wins Arizona, U.S. Senate race against Republican Carrie
Yeah, but I
Lake.
think the Senate race is separate from the presidential race. No, I think he won the Electoral College
in Arizona, but he lost the seat. Fuck, I don't know how it works.
I'm pretty sure he won all 7 swing states.
He did. I have it. I literally have it right here, bro. You don't have to check. I told
he
you.
lost the seat in the Senate, but he won the Electoral College, is what you're saying.
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not an expert on the American electoral system, so I don't know I don't know the difference between the two and how that breaks down. But I recall hearing on more than one occasion that he won all 7 swing states.
No, because I just saw this, that they lost.
He won the Senate.
No,
he won the House. Oh no, he's about to win the House.
the House is not out yet. Yeah,
He's 2 away from the House, but he's gonna win the House.
but anyways,
He won governor. He won everything.
so what's it called? So Sarkozy in France. So he's commenting on the election. He was saying, well, obviously Donald Trump won, and I'll tell you why exactly he won. Because Donald Trump and the Republican, they were speaking to the nation about the nation, whereas the Democrats had divided the population into ethnic groups or culture groups.
Yeah,
and
well,
they
the Democrats
tried
pander to identity politics.
Exactly. And that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore because people are fucking tired of being put in a specific group rather than being told that you are part of a greater country, a greater nation, and to create this sense of belonging in these communities. And I think he's right, 100%. And I mean, look at that. What's her name? Kamala Harris was going after the Latino vote. She lost it. She was going after the women's vote. She lost it. She was going after the black vote. She lost it. I mean, everything they did just failed miserably. So, it's a wake-up call. I still think that I don't think any of these 2 candidates is fit for office, to be honest with you. But as an American elector, when you're thinking who is, the better of, what's the expression? The better of both 2 evils, or when you have what's the best of the 2 evils? Well, you go with, what's it called? The devil, That's the,
Yeah.
So, Trump, he's governed before. None of what everyone is speculating might happen happened then. So why the hell would it happen now? He's coming in with much more experience. He's organized. He knows.
I think he has a better team.
Yeah, for sure. So, but know that he knows what to expect. Back in 2016, like Poseidon said, there was a surprise factor. He came in. He was new at it. He had no idea what the hell to do. He had to trust people that maybe weren't, trustworthy, that were telling him what to do, and he realized later that they weren't right. And I remember the first year and a half, how many people he fired from his administration.
Yeah.
So that it pretty much explains what happened.
Well, I think
everybody took him by the hand. They're like, all right, Donald, here, this is what you need to do. A, B, C, D. Okay, not department. A, B, C. Now it's different. He knows exactly what he has to do.
He's being more deliberate, and I think part of that is surrounding himself.
Well, he's already
with a
started,
better team.
which is also, I don't know. I can't remember if in the past the president-elect would announce members of his cabinet before being sworn in, or that early. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But this guy, within a week, he's announcing all his cabinet. Secretary of State, I think, is giving it to Rubio in Florida.
That's not confirmed, and that the New York Times. That came from as a rumor from the New York Times, and a lot of people say Rubio's a neocon, and it would go against everything Trump ran on for him to appoint a neocon as his Secretary of State, and a lot of people think that Tulsi Gabbard is a much better choice.
She's lined up for a spot as well, right?
Yeah. He's already named.
The former ICE chief, I think he put him in charge of border security or whatever.
Yeah, this guy's no nonsense. No. He's no nonsense. And he's a decorated combat veteran as Secretary of Defense, but a guy who the left-wing media is saying he's a Fox News host. He's appointed a Fox News host as Secretary of Defense. Well, he's a Fox News host who's a decorated combat veteran. Of more than 20 years service in the military.
You kind of need someone with military experience, or at least knowledge, to run your defense, right? So anyways, all that...
And it's being misrepresented is what I'm saying.
All this to say that he's going in with much better understanding of the functioning of the government. And I don't know why people are pushing on the panic button, and especially here in Canada. Everywhere, the media following the election day was, what's going to happen to Canada, and are we prepared, and what are we going to do? It's like, fuck, why don't you wait for the guy to be in office first to see what happens, because you never know what might happen.
Because it's Trump derangement syndrome, and they have to go crazy right away. That's
like the first thing they ran after Trudeau. What's going to happen now? Are you prepared? And my reflex was,
what's going to happen now?
No, but listen to this, man. Look how ridiculous this is. And I understand the media; they want to get the story out. I'm not blaming them. But all I'm saying is, look at the logic. There is a very big possibility that Trudeau isn't even the prime minister by the time Donald Trump is sworn in. So why the hell are you asking Trudeau if he's prepared? He might not even be in place.
Why do you say that? Could there be a vote of non-confidence between now and then?
We may be going into an election soon. Who knows what might happen? So how about we take it day by day? And let's just wait and see. And people are panicking because of the tariffs, and the free trade talks might collapse and all that stuff. Fuck, U.S. and Canada's economies are so integrated that I understand what Trump is saying, but it's so hard to do and to impose strict tariffs like that on Canada, because whether you like it or not, it will have a negative impact on the U.S. And he's not dumb. And even if he is dumb, I'm sure he has advisors that aren't as dumb that will probably already know that imposing tariffs that high on Canada, on Canadian exports, is going to have a negative impact on the U.S. So, let's just all fucking take a chill pill. And here's the thing, we're talking about this off air before we started. We are so consumed by the content coming out of the U.S. Our minds and our eyeballs are just, fixed so much on what's happening in the U.S. He's the president of the United States. It has nothing to do with us. Like, it does have an impact because economically and socially and everything else, like I said, we're very much integrated, but it's not our business. What's happening in the U.S.? Like, fuck, we have another loser over here. How about we turn our eyes to that moron and get him out of office, rather than to be preoccupied by what's happening in the U.S.
Well, it just goes
it's
to
another
show
country.
You, it just goes to show you the influence that American media has
Absolutely.
on us. We get all
like, you have all these guys, all these psychos, Trump, yeah, MAGA. Bro, you don't even fucking vote in the U.S. What are you doing? Like, it's good. Support the guy if you like him, but why are you going crazy like that? Fucking shit! Like I couldn't follow news anymore, man. It was just so stuck on this sensationalism about how people feel.
Well, it's the same reason why people loved seeing Javier Milei win in Argentina. Is because even here, two people are tired of this woke shit and they're happy to see this shit change.
Yeah.
So the Canadians here, including myself, when we were live streaming the elections for 7 hours.
Well,
by the way.
yeah.
You know, we're tired of seeing this bullshit, like how they're tired in the United States. So it gives people here, the regular Joe Blow that wants to do business, that wants to work, that wants to, he doesn't really want to get involved in nonsense. It gives hope for people in other places as well that are that regular a guy or a woman that want to start a family and raise their kids and have a few vacations. So it gives hope to those people. So that's why they're cheering for Trump. They're not just cheering for Trump because they know they don't live in the United States. They're not retarded. But you understand, George?
It's like Scott Jennings was saying on that clip on CNN. People are tired of being condescended.
Yes.
No, but again, to what he was saying and to what you're saying as well, and that's another takeaway maybe of what happened following the results. People don't care anymore about fucking stupid slogans. At the end of the day, it's can I put money on the table, feed my kids, get them through school, and things that matter,
and
right?
enjoy life. Because I think what's been happening lately is a lot of people have been coming to the realization that, holy fuck, I'm gonna die one day. All this shit means nothing. I should just try to enjoy life. So when you take that enjoyment away, it's like, what the fuck, man?
Not when you take it away. When you put barriers into people's advancement in life and any potential they may have, it's like you can't do anything. You can't do anything. The price have gone, are skyrocketing. Your opportunities are down. Fucking jobs being lost. And you have the other one talking about, the black community and we're going to help Latinos, and the other guy's a racist and he's a fascist. Call him whatever the fuck you want, but I want to earn money. I want to put my family through school, and it's tangible things that matter much more than just words being spat out. Just fucking here, we'll throw that out there. And
hey, what are you gonna do about grocery prices? I've put tampons in the bathroom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people get tired of that shit.
But let's be honest. In terms of content, neither of the two candidates had anything to say during the campaign. It was just populism. The only thing, and we spoke about this, the only time, and I admit I didn't follow the campaign religiously either, but the only content that I actually saw during the campaign was during the vice presidential debate. It was the only moment that actually made sense to me, and I even messaged you. I'm like, there's hope. There's fucking hope.
Well, Trump had policy positions, and you see some of it being put into play already. He has set up this Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and he's put Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, is that his name? Yeah, like two really smart, successful business guys in charge of this. And if they follow through with what they say they're going to do, they're going to slash the shit out of the American government. They're going to cut a lot of fat.
Well,
apparently the American government, the annual budget is $6.5 trillion. And a lot of that is waste. A lot of people are getting rich.
What is it? I think it's about a third of that goes to the military every year.
I'm not too sure, but I think, a lot of it goes into people's pockets. It's a gravy train.
Oh, yeah.
It's a gravy train, and the Washington establishment runs on that gravy train.
There's an entire machine that just feeds off that shit.
Yeah. And that's why a big part of the Washington establishment is so anti-Trump. He threatens their livelihood, and their livelihood is not, something that's well-deserved and hard-earned. It's just lining their pockets off taxpayer dollars. And you're goddamn right they should trim that fat. And I'd like to see that happen on this side of the border as well.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to have much choice. And don't forget, the major difference between the U.S. and Canada is that the U.S. has an industry. So when they dip into deficits, because they're them too, I mean, their economy isn't stellar either, but that doesn't really matter in their situation because they have a major freaking industry that generates.
You mean an industrial base?
Of course. I mean,
But it's not what it used to be, though, is it?
Of course not. But when you compare the U.S. and Canada,
can you restore that? Can you bring the Rust Belt back to life?
I don't know if
Isn't that what tariffs are all about?
Yeah, but at the same time, look, how do you impose tariffs on products coming in that the U.S., for example, isn't a leader in? So you're going to have to first create the industry or recreate it or boost the industry before you tell countries, all right, well, we're going to,
I think that's going to happen naturally. I watched a video talking about this a while ago, that the U.S. could literally close its borders, no longer do import-export, and they're good on anything modern that we need today. Oil. They could. It's because you forget their country is so big.
Yeah,
and
but
there's so many
the problem
different
is the
landscapes.
manufacturing. That's where the problem comes in.
what?
Because the manufacturing costs. Because when you're getting everything at a penny coming in from Asia compared to making it over here in the U.S. with the wages and everything, the costs are obviously much higher over here.
It's a problem for conglomerates.
No, if you're a business,
Yes, no, it's a problem for conglomerates. I'll tell you why. They can no longer put up the same numbers in the stock market. Because in the U.S., the way the economy is now, they have to have infinite growth, but infinite growth is just not possible. You know what I mean?
if you're producing, for example, phone cases, okay?
Yeah.
Let's understand one thing. Wages, production costs, everything is higher in the US. So you can't sell it at, I don't know, 5 cents like they do in China because it costs you more to produce it over here. So that's the issue. Which means that, you know, first of all,
but I think
do
that
you have
will
a market
offset
where you can sell this? I mean,
I think that will offset itself. Let's say they do decide to do that. They close in on themselves and this, that. They just focus on, that's it. I think people making more money will offset that, because if you're buying locally, everyone's just buying each other's things.
the challenge, Poseidon, is that you need to sell it in order to make money. And if it's costing you more to make it, your retail price is obviously going to be higher. So what market are you going to go sell your product that is going to cost much higher than you can get it
Let me give you an example.
China?
Let me give you an example. In Florida, there are some car washes that charge $80 for a car wash, which is unheard of here. But they don't care. In Florida, what's happening, the economy is rolling so well that everyone has money and everyone's kind of feeding themselves, because the backbone of an economy is small business. It's not conglomerates. So what's going to happen is going to fall back into, if they do that, it's going to fall back into small businesses making money. Everyone's going to be buying off of each other.
I hope $80 is inside out with Armor All.
Yeah, it's like full thing. But it's so expensive because they could do it. Like this is what I've heard from Florida, is that everyone, stuff are a little more expensive, but everyone can afford it. So everyone's just feeding each other basically.
Yeah.
And they have money. They don't even blink because they know they're going to make money. It's crazy what's happening in Florida.
Well, the stock market reacted positively, right, after Trump's election.
That's another story. But we're talking about like production and stuff like that now.
No, I'm just saying that even foreign investors' confidence went up. Like things are on the positive. I don't know if it's gonna last. Obviously, I mean we're a week out of the election. So again, I think everyone should just relax, take a breather.
Nobody's going to relax. People never relax.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He's not,
especially the people afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome. They'll never relax. He could never do enough.
Yeah.
He can never do enough because they're just so consumed with irrational hatred that's fed by legacy media.
And I find that very sad because it's not an extremist party. It's not a Nazi party. The guy is the leader of the Republican Party. I mean, what else is there to say? And we've spoken about this so many times. I fear that trend is going to come into Canada. It's already here anyway. But when you have we have the Conservative Party, it's going super well for Pierre Poilievre. If continues going this way, he's going to win with a super majority of probably over 215 seats, 220, which is fucking ridiculous, you know. And suddenly, he's going to have to face the exact same behavior, and he's the leader of the Conservative Party. Like, what are we talking about over here?
Yeah. Well, you know what I think, and I think this is what Trump does. You ignore the noise, because that's all it is noise. You ignore the noise, and you roll up your sleeves and you get the work done.
Like at some point, don't you have to respect the will of the people?
No,
Nobody forced these people to go vote. This isn't an authoritarian regime that came and grabbed you from your house, dragged you to the polling, to the voting stations, and told you put an X over here and let's go. Fuck. No, people went on their own,
There's always
from their
gonna
own
be-
free will and voted for Trump.
There's always going to be a segment that doesn't respect the will of the electorate, and that's part of living in a democracy. The assholes get freedom of speech.
Speaking of electorate, just back here in Canada, because there was a Leger poll that dropped this morning, and it's mostly voting intentions in Quebec, but he always puts like a little segment of how the Quebecers will be voting at a federal election, so it's only specific to Quebec. And the Liberal Party of Canada, so Justin Trudeau's party, fell to third position. They were neck and neck with the Conservative, like 1 or 2 point difference.
So now they're behind the Conservatives in the Bloc, or the Conservatives
The Bloc
in the
is
NDP?
first. Forget about the Bloc.
No, I'm talking about nationally.
Nationally, the Conservatives are ahead. Yeah.
No, I know that, but where are the Liberals?
I don't know because
okay.
this poll is only exclusive for Quebec. But to see the Liberal Party fall behind in third place, and we're not just talking about a few points over here. Fuck, I lost the page.
Do you think that what happened in the American election will affect the way that the Liberals run their campaign? Are they going to recognize that, okay, we can't run on identity politics, and we can't run on calling people
But that's what scares me, Ted. That's what scares me.
We can't run on calling, our political opponents fascists and Nazis. It just doesn't work.
I hope they stop, but something deep inside me tells me that they're going
to double down.
They're going to double down on
really?
that. I fear that they're going to double down and say, look what's happening in the U.S. We have to avoid that from happening in Canada at all costs.
Then they're stupid.
Of course they're stupid. Of course they're stupid. I've been saying this forever.
This is a given.
Yeah, no, but I've been saying this like since we started working together. I mean, it's ridiculous to me that they're going into that category because first of all, it's dangerous, and second of all, it's not true. And at the end of the day, you're not controlling people's wills anymore.
That just says to me that they're completely out of touch at street level.
I see.
Like they're living in a political bubble.
First of all, I don't even know what's going to happen in Justin Trudeau's cabinet. The results coming out in this poll that have Justin in Quebec, which is the Liberal stronghold, if you will, coming in third, is just scary to me. Right?
Behind the Bloc and the Conservatives.
The Bloc is first in Quebec.
The Conservatives now lead the Liberals in Quebec?
Yeah.
Fuck.
The numbers are 35% for Bloc, 24% Conservative, 22% Liberal.
And are the Conservatives all clustered around Quebec City where they traditionally have been?
It's mostly the region of Quebec.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting. What is it about the region of Quebec that makes it
they're more center right.
Yeah.
They're more center right, which is where even the Conservative Party of Quebec made a lot of gains the last election. They didn't get any seats, but that's where most of their vote went up.
That's interesting. Is that because it's government and university?
I don't know. It's always
because academics are generally more liberal, right?
Yeah.
Or in Quebec, there's probably a lot of academics who are PQ.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
People wanted liberals to be more liberal with like the arts, the this, the that, not with their money.
The question
That's the problem.
Yeah, the question I have, and this I guess it's too soon to tell, but going into the federal election, if the Conservatives are doing really well, and from what we're seeing, they're starting to pick up ground even in Quebec. I don't think they're going to pass the Bloc, to be honest with you. But between the Conservatives and the Liberals in Quebec, when the election comes around and the Quebecers are seeing that the Conservatives are going to win a landslide fucking election, they're going to want to be, around that table.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't fucking miss that train. So I have a feeling that even last minute, a lot of that, the center liberal vote may go to the Conservatives. Because when you're seeing that, okay, there's no hope for the Liberals, forget it. Why would I vote for Liberals? I might as well just get the Conservatives elected and have my voice heard. Well, the vote is going to shift to the Conservatives. So I think that these numbers are really low. I think they're what's the word?
They're underestimating.
They're underestimating the Conservatives in Quebec. I have a feeling they're going to do much better. I'm not so sure they're going to beat the bloc, to be honest, but I think they're grossly underestimating.
How long
the
can he
Conservatives.
stretch it out for? What's the latest that the next federal election could be held?
October of 25.
All right.
There's no way he's going to last until
No
then.
way.
There's no way. So based on this, I'm curious now to see if his caucus is going to continue that mini revolt.
I was
that we
going to
saw a
ask
couple
you where
weeks ago.
that's at.
They shut it down. They shut it down. There's apparently 20 to 30 MPs, mostly backbenchers, that signed some letter wanting Justin to step down. And they did it wrong. They did it wrong. Like, if you're going to stand up to your leader, you can't fucking do it behind anonymity. You can't.
You got to have the courage of your convictions.
Have the fucking courage.
Yeah.
Come out. Rally everyone that's against Justin Trudeau, make a press conference and say we're against him because of A, B, C, D. And until he leaves, we're going to be sitting independent. And that's how you make an impact. Because when you have 30, like a chunk of your caucus that suddenly is just sitting independent, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure. Now, here's the other
there is.
So here's the other thing now.
I'm feeling a lot of pressure on my caucus.
So
Especially on the tip.
the thing about the tip
Again,
of the caucus.
this is why we're not invited onto the CBC or CTV political panels.
The View hates us, and I'm proud of it.
So I'm convinced that the majority of these people, I don't think they believe that they could win the next election. Even if they get rid of Justin Trudeau, even if another leader comes in, I'm convinced.
No, I think that ship has
that
sailed.
they know that they're
Yeah.
going to lose. The
Yeah.
problem with them is that they want to save their own ass now. They're thinking, okay, we're going to lose no matter what the next election. We're not going to make it into government. But right now, is my seat safe if Justin Trudeau runs as a leader or if we get someone else? What can I go tell my constituents, right? And I think there's a lot of them that are in that bubble. I know that Alexandra Mendes, who gets elected in Brossard, is there. She obviously hasn't come out, so I don't want to suggest that she's part of these people. I don't know, but I have heard her publicly say that, my constituents, they vote Liberal, they want to support us, but I'm not so sure they want Justin Trudeau. So she's probably among the MPs that think we're going to lose, but fuck, I need my seat. I need my riding. And in order to secure that riding, we got to get rid of fucking Justin Trudeau. So I think there's a lot of them, especially in the Ontario, in the Greater Toronto, in the GTA region.
Yeah, where it could go either way.
Oh man, well the by-elections that they lost fucking what's it called, the Toronto,
Yeah.
St. Paul,
Yeah.
Verdun. Like, people in these areas are starting to panic. I mean, if you're starting to lose strongholds like Toronto, St. Paul, and LaSalle, Verdun, and Mard, which I think in a general election the Liberals might pick it up, but still, if you're losing seats that are guaranteed Liberal, imagine the guy who every election has to struggle because he has to depend on some vote splitting or whatever to kind of go through. They're done. They're done.
Who won that LaSalle by-election?
The Bloc. The
Yeah.
Bloc Québécois won it. Yeah. So it'll be. I'm curious to see what's going to happen now with these numbers. In any case, I know that the pressure's there. It's always been there with Justin Trudeau. He's trying to kind of swipe things away and say, no, don't worry about it. We're united. We're strong. We're going forward. I will be the leader. But at the same time, think of it this way, Ted. You're in the Liberal caucus, okay? Your leader's not doing well. You know you're losing the next election. Why would you want to replace him? Why would you want to become the leader of a failing party?
Yeah.
Why would you take all the blows of a job that hasn't even been done by you? You understand?
Well, when you have, quite often, and this isn't just with political party leaders, this can be with hockey coaches, this can be with radio morning men, this can be with television news anchors. You have someone who's been there for a long time, like him. You don't bring the heir apparent in right away. You have someone in the interim. You know what I mean?
like a buffer.
And then, buffer, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's
If I had this the hopes of becoming a party leader, I wouldn't want to do it now. Let the guy fall on his face. I'm not going to take the heat for what he did.
yeah.
Problem is that after Justin Trudeau, the party's going to be in big trouble. It's going to be in big trouble. They're going to have a hard time rebuilding, getting the party to kind of distinguish itself from Justin Trudeau era and rebuilding. I mean, we saw that provincially with the Liberal Party here in Quebec. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. And
so not only politically, but I'm assuming, and you would know about this because of your involvement in politics, fundraising must...
they've taken a hit.
Yeah.
Oh, they've taken a huge hit federally. They're having a lot of. They're having a hard time. Meanwhile, you're looking at the Conservatives, and they're bringing in record numbers.
Mind you, it didn't help Kamala, did it? I read that she raised over $1 billion, and she still ended the campaign $20 million in debt. The money she was supposedly doling out to celebrities for their endorsements. 10 million for Beyonce. I thought it was interesting that Beyonce got 10 million and Oprah got 1 million.
Yeah.
Sign of the times, eh? Because Oprah, like if you said to me, who's a bigger star, Beyonce or Oprah? I need an answer right now. I would probably say Oprah, but that reflects how old I am and how, like I have
But
always...
doesn't that, think about that for a second, Ted. You show up at a political rally, you want to convince people that, about your integrity and where your beliefs stand, and we got to show support towards Kamala Harris. She's the right person, blah, blah. Meanwhile, you're being fucking paid.
Yeah.
You're being paid. I mean, what the hell are you talking about?
I think it's a demonstration that people don't give a shit who celebrities support.
Give me the fucking money. I'll show up. Don't worry. I'll rally your people.
Yeah.
But it's
Beyonce
fake.
didn't even sing.
No, exactly.
$10 million. How much? What would it have cost them if she was going to sing? Because she showed up at that rally and everyone was expecting she was going to do a song, and she was like, "No,
the whole show, the whole theatrics. I'm not here to sing. I'm not here as an artist. I'm here as a mother. I'm here as a blah blah blah. You're here because you got paid $10 million. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? So look, guys. Let's be honest here. American politics is at a whole other level. We can't compare that over here.
Yeah,
but to go
it
back,
almost seems unethical to me.
I think
to collect a paycheck in order to endorse.
Look, I obviously worked in politics. I was involved in fundraising, and it was so frustrating. It was so raising money, fundraising politically in Canada and obviously in Quebec, where we have separate rules here in Quebec with the limits. It was so fucking annoying. It's so frustrating because provincially, when I started, the limit was $3,000 per person, and there were things said behind closed doors that it's people buying favors and all that sort of thing. Engineering firms, law firms, construction firms. So there was this huge movement on bringing down that money as if that was going to help. So they brought it down to $100 maximum per person. How do you raise money? How do you raise money at $100 maximum per person? It's nearly impossible. It's impossible, which is why party funding now is government. It's public funds. I mean, you pay to support political parties, which in essence makes no sense. Why is my money helping the PQ?
Because of my taxes.
Well, it's the parliament that funds the parties now.
Okay.
So
I did not know that.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, they could still raise money, but let's understand: if you fill up a room with 500 people at $100, it's not the same 500 people paying $1,000, right? Yeah. So there's a huge difference. So when I used to look at the American politics, I was like, "Fucking shit, we're so stupid. Fuck, man, look what they're doing and look what we're doing."
So there's no limit in the States?
Well, not only that there's no limit, companies are able to fund political campaigns, which here in Canada is illegal.
I guess that's called influence peddling, is it not?
So you can't. Like, if I have a multi-million-dollar company and I want to give it to Justin Trudeau, is like, here, how much do you need? $10 million. Here, I'll sign a check. You can't do that. You can't do that. It has to be made at a personal level, and there's a maximum, so you can't go above that. So that's where you see the level, right? And that's why maybe, when you're talking about the ethical aspect of it, maybe that's bad. Maybe what we have here is better. Perhaps we should increase the level so that we can
the limit.
The limit. I mean, but when you have it like the U.S., how do you not get what do you call it? How do you not grow your conflict of interest in your bureaucracy? The fucking lobby groups that are just kings in the U.S., right?
Yeah, so but at the same time, this election demonstrated that you can't buy high office because she raised way more money than he did.
Yeah.
Way more money.
Yeah.
And she still got her ass kicked.
Yeah. No, I think we're living at we're at a crossroads right now where, and I'm happy, and you said it too, because I have a political podcast, and seeing what happened in the U.S., I hope we wake up over here to realize the impact that podcasts have. And I'm not saying that we have huge audiences. We're not Joe Rogan. We're never going to be that, and even smaller podcasts in the U.S.
But your podcast in Quebec is very influential. Like you guys are doing gangbusters.
We're okay. We're happy. It's we're getting a lot of we're getting a lot of attention, and we're actually starting to talk. I mean, it's too early because the election in Quebec is in 2026, but we're starting to throw around ideas of hosting an actual leaders debate on our podcast, which is going to be fucking history in the making. It's never happened before. But given all the attention that podcasts have been getting, and if we maintain what we're doing for another year and a half leading into the 2026 elections, maybe we'll be at that place where, reputation wise and credibility wise,
you're getting the big name. You're getting the big name guests, and you're getting the recognition.
And even if it's not us, I would wish for another podcast to do that, because that's where the attention is today.
Yep.
And speaking of podcasts, I had it over here. Hold on, where is it? After the election, what's his name? Chris Wallace, CNN. I don't know if you saw this, if you read it. He's going to be leaving CNN. He announced that he's going to leave CNN, and he wants to explore the possibilities on other new media environment. Well, obviously, he's going to start a podcast. But it's just so funny because he's the one that was criticizing Tucker Carlson for leaving Fox and starting a podcast, and he was very judgmental towards him. And suddenly, he's probably going to do the same thing. They've realized that the money is there now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a shift of
that's where the money is, and that's where the influence
for sure
is.
There's a financial shift. Let's talk a little bit about hockey. We'll leave the politics aside. I know that you guys mentioned it a little bit on your podcast. Pierre Hood making it into the Hall of Fame. That's pretty huge, no, for Quebec.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's and it's no surprise. Pierre is one of the. Who is a bigger hockey broadcaster in the history of Quebec than Pierre Hood? René Lecavalier, Richard Garneau. Like, there's only a handful. Pierre's in the top 3 to 5 of all time, and well-deserved, hard-earned, overdue probably for Pierre Hood from RDS to go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Oh, classy
He's the
guy.
nicest man, and part of what makes Pierre such a great broadcaster is he is exactly the same guy off the air that he is on the air.
Yeah.
The guy you see on the air, that's Pierre Hood. There's not an on-off switch there. That's who he is. He's just a nice man and a solid professional, and good for him to be ushered into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Who else got in? Shea Weber,
former Montreal Canadiens captain. Borderline case to me because he spent so much of his career injured. And but another guy who is so respected by his peers. That year that the Canadiens went to the final, I think it was 2021 during the pandemic when they were playing in the empty arenas, and they ended up losing to Tampa Bay in the final. And if you saw the end of the last game, all the Canadiens players, after they lost, they immediately went straight to Shea Weber. They got on the ice and they went straight over to him, tapped him on the pads, patted him on the back, because they knew that was it. They knew he was done. And the respect was so huge among his peers. So between that and what he was able to accomplish while he was healthy, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue that choice for the Hockey Hall of Fame. But I could see if someone wanted to say that's a borderline. I can understand.
Yeah.
But you know what? For a borderline case, why not? Let them in. Why not honor the guy? Who nobody's going to die. Nobody's going to be injured if he doesn't get in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Jeremy Roenick also got in, from...
Jeremy Roenick. Another case you could say borderline. One of the all-time great hockey quotes. when Jeremy Roenick, I forget who he was playing for.
Blackhawks, no? He was.
Well, he played for the
San Jose.
Blackhawks. He played. Yeah, he played for a few different teams, but he was in a war of words in the media with Patrick Roy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
One time, and this is like 20 to 25 years ago. And somebody asked Patrick Roy about something Jeremy Roenick had said about him, and Patrick Roy said, "Tell Jeremy I can't hear him because my 2 Stanley Cup rings are stuck in my ears." Because I don't think Roenick ever won a cup.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. I remember when the Blackhawks won, and I don't even know why I was watching, because I don't watch these things, but he was with the commentators. They had him there, and he was so emotional. He was crying. He's like, "Oh, I can't believe these guys. I'm so proud of them." And he's not even playing for them, but it's his team, right? And he was so proud of them winning the Stanley Cup. It was nice to see. One last topic, guys, before we go, because this was huge news, and it will continue to be huge news, and you've probably heard it. There was a school a couple weeks ago in Côte-des-Neiges, Bedford School, where you had a mob of 11 Muslim teachers that were just ruling in that school over there, despite what the director was saying, and the Centre des Services Scolaires, which is like the old school board. And the directive from the ministry, they were just doing whatever the fuck they wanted. They were separating girls from boys. They were telling girls that you cannot play that type of sport because it's not for girls. There was a situation in the report that was done where a kid had fainted, and the teacher started praying instead of seeking help. So just, these...
Basically instituting a Sharia sort of environment.
Like there's this...
In a Quebec public school.
In a Quebec public school.
It's a public school,
it's a
right?
Public
Not a private school.
No, it's a public school.
Do you know what the ethnic makeup is of the school?
Well, it's
how it breaks
Côte-des-Neiges.
down?
There's a lot of Muslim kids.
Right.
And a lot of media made the link to a mosque that is either next to it or very close to it, where parents that send their kids to the school also go to the mosque, and there's like some sort of relation with the mosque leaders and the school and those teachers especially. And it's pretty disturbing. It's pretty disturbing. And the Minister of Education, which we had on actually on Monday, he acted pretty quickly. And the fascinating thing in this story is that this never made it to the cabinet. The Ministry of Education had no clue this was even happening. So I don't know who knew about this, because clearly when you have 11 people acting a certain way, it's not done secretly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they knew. So somewhere, somehow decided that let's just keep this information here locally. We're going to deal with it internally, and it never, they never managed to deal with it. And now, the cat's out of the hat, and the fucking minister was livid, and so he suspended their teaching permits. I think the investigation is still ongoing on whether or not he's going to revoke them. But in the meantime, there's another school in the East End where similar practice has been noticed, and there's another 3 schools that are now being investigated. And yesterday, there was news that broke in daycares that are being very selective in the kids that they're going to take in. These are public daycares. So because they're in a more Muslim neighborhood, they're like, oh, no, we don't want your kid. They're bringing the other one. So they're being very selective, which is ridiculous to even think about that. And the discussion has come out now to religious schools. There are religious schools, they're private schools, but like every other private school in Quebec, they are funded by the government upwards up to 60%. So the question has become, should the government keep funding religious schools? Like, if there's public funds attributed to any school, should there be religion practiced in these schools? And it's a huge debate. All parties of the opposition have voted in favor of a motion requesting that the government stop public funding. The government, though, is very careful, because religion has never been an issue in the past. And now, because we have 2, 3, 4 instances where it's very specific to...
And there's a Muslim link in everyone.
Why would we generalize this across the board and say, well, fuck, religion is done, we're taking away our funding? So this is going to be a huge issue going forward. The government seems to be pretty... steady on its decision to maintain the funding for these schools. I don't know how they're going to manage it, but and I don't know how people feel about this. Having schools funded publicly where these types of practices are taking place. I don't know.
Well, it's very sensitive, and especially where Muslim schools are involved, because if you raise an objection, there's a certain a segment that's going to immediately brand you Islamophobic.
Yeah.
You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're Islamophobic. So it's delicate. It's a really it's a delicate topic. And then you have the element of, if they're enforcing or promoting elements of Sharia law within public schools.
It needs to stop.
Yeah, I mean, because that's, how do you square that with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms?
That's where the delicate part comes in. Anyways, we'll see what happens. We'll stay tuned. Do you guys mind if we edit? Because I really have to run to the bathroom.
Okay.
Oh, wow! How the tables have turned tabled.
The table. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We love you as always.
George
Subscribe
has
to
the shit.
channel.
George has the shit.
I gotta pee badly, man. Follow Poseidon, Ted Berg, Standing By Podcast. If you know or understand French, follow Politiquement Parlant. We love you. We'll see you next week. Ciao, everyone.